right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the content this morning. What'd you think? Joined now by somebody who needs little introduction anywhere, but especially little introduction here. He started a design agency, spent time at Google, is the author of 5 books on web design, including The Art and Science of JavaScript. So we'll try to talk him into a Stripe Press contract here on stage. But most importantly, a co-founder and the chief product officer at Canva. Please welcome to the stage, Cameron Adams.
Hey, Patrick. Great to be here.
Thank you.
So these advances for Stripe Press,
Exactly,
is that like $5 million deals? Or?
We'll get into the negotiation once we get off stage. So, all right. So I was trying to put together the questions here, and trying to be sort of polite. You want to be kind of kind and generous to your interviewee. In the most flattering way possible, how are you guys so big? When I first used Canva, it was a long time ago. I'm like, oh wow, this is this cool design tool. And now you guys have become this absolute SaaS juggernaut, like one of the largest SaaS companies on the internet, one of the fastest growing SaaS companies on the internet. And I mean, maybe when people first used Stripe, they thought, oh, it's like this little kind of payments toy, and they're going through sort of their version of that. But can you talk us through how you went from, I'll let you describe kind of what Canva was in the beginning, but from a more narrow design tool to this design juggernaut that you guys are becoming?
Well, I think that's the thing, and I'm sure you experienced it. Like, people have this perception of where you are when you're this tiny startup with 3 people trying to make something happen, but you have this vision for something that's bigger. You have this vision for what the company is going to be. You don't know how many employees it's going to be, but you know that the impact that you're going to have is huge.
So did you guys think Canva would be big when you were starting out?
We definitely thought it'd be big, but like what big actually means, I'm
sure
like you come to grips with over time.
Okay, Stripe was a little side project, that John and I were working on in college. Sorry, uni. But you guys had significant ambitions from the outset.
Yeah, we definitely had big ambitions. We knew that design was something that was kind of a sleeper hit. Like, it was something that people thought other people did. Like, a very small group of people could design stuff, and they would go to them when they needed something done that looked pretty. But we knew that design could really unlock a huge amount of impact for people who just hadn't thought about it before. So we always had that vision of taking design to the entire world and literally making anyone a designer. But you can't start there. You can't ship that product and get billions of people to use it straight out of the gate. So you need to find your first customers. And you even need to explain that to investors. Like, a lot of investors we went to didn't believe that design was a thing that anyone was interested in.
And there was no kind of Figma back then, or at least Figma had not achieved any success and so forth. So
no,
there weren't reference points.
It was all expensive software used by less than 1% of the world. Yeah. So that was their thought of the total addressable market.
Yep.
There were so many investors that said, there is no market here. Sure, you can go head-to-head with someone else, but that's all you're going to do. There's nothing beyond that you can grow into.
And where did you raise capital in the very beginning?
Very first was in America.
Okay.
We did a lot of
Was that because of difficulty here?
Yeah, we did a bit of groundwork here, but it was hard to get people over the line. So this is like 2012.
Yeah.
A lot of VC kind of came from old capital in Australia. You had people that used to doing mining and stuff like that. So explaining technology, SaaS software, growth models was quite tricky.
I'm picturing those meetings.
Put a lump of coal on the table. There was like a little bit of interest, but like hesitation. So they're like, it sounds interesting, but if someone else comes in, we'll come in.
Yeah.
You know,
And did you guys have
traditional
like a, Elon has his written master plan for Tesla on the Tesla blog from, I don't know, 2012 or something. Did you guys have kind of your version of that? Like, did you anticipate the sequence of product steps that you would take, or was it kind of a bit more ad hoc?
Mel, our CEO, is also definitely the Chief Visionary Officer, and she literally has a presentation deck from 2012 that lays out the full Canva vision of where we want to go.
And so how many years into the future does it extend from here?
There's no timeline on it. I think she wanted to ship it within 2 years, but it's now year 12 for Canva, and we're still shipping it.
I sympathize. Okay, so to this kind of maybe investment point and just kind of the Australian scene as it was, in 2012. So two of the largest SaaS businesses in the world, you guys and Atlassian, are from Australia. Probably there's 25 million people in Australia, but the world is 7 billion people. What's going on? What's in the Australian water?
I think it's just a brilliant way to scale outside of Australia. So if you think of just making a product for Australia, like I've seen lots of US startups that are like, if we just built for the US, we would be a fantastically successful company. If you did that here in Australia, there's not quite the market for that. You're going to be like 10, maybe $100 million company. So you always need to think beyond the boundaries, or at least that's what we've done and what Atlassian has done as well. And SaaS is a great model for scaling that, because from Sydney, you can create a product that's used in India, Indonesia, Spain, France, Brazil, all these places, and it scales beautifully. So it's just a model that really works for the population we have.
There's no consumer giants from Australia. Like there's no TikTok of Australia or from Australia, to my knowledge, at least. Maybe I'm.
Interesting question.
Is there something like are you guys more pragmatic or just less into entertaining yourselves?
We do get a lot of entertainment on the streets.
Maybe there's just enough
Australia.
natural entertainment around. It's like, why build TikTok
exactly.
when you have the beach?
Go out into a forest, see a koala,
okay.
see a Uluru, come to Tasmania, like, it's all there.
Don't need TikTok, we got koalas. So something we think a lot about at Stripe is, we operate kind of directly in around 50 markets or so, and then we have this product called Stripe Atlas to help people incorporate a business, no matter what country they're in. And so in that context, we were very curious about what the kind of barriers to getting started across different markets or jurisdictions might be. And so I guess I was curious, as you kind of take stock of the Australian startup ecosystem, is there anything you think it needs more of or would benefit from more of, whether that's policy changes or just more capital, or, I don't know, I don't want to lead the witness here, but just, and again, obviously, the ecosystem is working very well to some extent, but yeah, is there anything that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, I think it's definitely matured and evolved over the years and grown a lot. Like, as I said, the VC scene 12 years ago is extremely different to what it is now.
Yeah.
Like, we can use more capital, but there are a lot of Australian companies, Australian startups just getting Australian funding now. It's not a necessity to go to Silicon Valley anymore, which is awesome, because if you have to go to the States for capital, they'll often employ you to move over there as well. So being able to keep talent and companies here has been fantastic.
What fraction of your headcount is in Australia?
For us, it's about just over half is here in Australia.
Yeah.
We've got quite a presence in Europe. We do a bit of product development there. The States, we have a big sales and marketing team there. And we also have it's our second biggest office in Manila in the Philippines, where a lot of the design that goes into Canva happens as well. I think...
I'm curious to talk through that, like why Manila, and how do you maintain cohesion across those disparate locations, given you obviously care about a sort of a well-formed design aesthetic?
Yeah, so we actually celebrated the 10th birthday of our Manila office last week.
Congratulations.
So thank you. We were over there. And
it's the season of 10th anniversaries for businesses and places.
Exactly. It's like 2014 was a year of great activity. But we've now got a team of 933 people there. So it's a pretty huge office for us. And to be honest, it wasn't, the very first day we were there, it wasn't a very strategic decision. We knew someone that we had worked with. They'd been doing amazing stuff for us. We asked where they lived. It was the Philippines. We were like, let's get more people there. And it just started lining up. Like, there's an amazing pool of talent there, particularly in the design scene, which is really pivotal for us. So we've got a large...
Is there a reason there's such a large design scene there, or happenstance?
I wouldn't be able to give you the scientific answer, but there's an incredible craft.
But it wasn't like Adobe had a big office there, or
I don't think so. There's an incredible craft tradition in the Philippines, and they're fantastically good at making beautiful things, crafting things. So I feel like that cultural tradition has translated into the digital realm in terms of graphic designers, product designers, stuff like that. So yeah, we grew that. We grew the support side of the team in Manila, and now there's a ton of different specialties there that do a lot of different things. But to your point, like maintaining the culture across those boundaries has been something that we've learned a ton about over the 10 years. We have an amazing team of leaders there now who, particularly in the last 4 years, have really made Canva Philippines its own thing. It has its own life, its own culture, it's very localized, and out of that, they've actually been able to drive incredible growth in Canva usage in the Philippines as well. So Philippines is now one of our top 5 markets, and the penetration there is incredible. 1 in 7 people in the Philippines use Canva.
Oh my God.
And that is driven because the team there is just so passionate about it, about Canva as a company, about Canva as a product, and they've driven that through events they've held, growth campaigns they've held, marketing. It's just been one of our best growth channels ever.
I was we're chatting with David Holtz, the founder of Midjourney, which actually just launched their web product today. He was making the case that he thinks that almost everybody has artistic conceptions and artistic desires, and they're sort of just limited by the technical ability to realize it. And then similarly, Mikey, the founder of Suno, saying the same thing, that everybody has musical kind of sensibilities and tastes and so on, but not everybody can play with all the widgets to make the EDM or whatever. And so it sounds like Canva is to some extent sort of a beneficiary of this same insight that to some extent everyone is or wants to be an artist.
Yeah, I think it goes even beyond artistic realms. It's like creativity in all its forms, and
So will you guys do non-visual design? Is that in the back half of Melanie's deck?
It's probably in there somewhere. We've already started moving in there, so we've got docs that you can now create in Canva. They're centered around visuals as kind of a great way to communicate different ideas through a document, but you've got an incredible amount of text content in there. We have a magic write tool which helps you rephrase things, expand context, fiddle with all the text. We've got a lot of audio capabilities coming in now, so lots of people do narratives, voiceovers in Canva. So yeah, it's expanding, and I think you can think of it largely as storytelling, because at the end of the day, when you're communicating an idea...
Storytelling, that's the heart of Canva.
Yeah, I don't think it's something I've ever said before, but...
It sounds very profound.
It is. When you talk about visual communication, it's about telling stories through images, videos, moving parts of it. But there's lots of different components of telling a story. Narrative can be told through voice, it can be told through text, and it's the weaving of all those things together where Canva really excels.
So, how many employees at Canva today?
Close to 5,000.
Okay. So, I know we've an audience here, but I'm very eager to ask a couple of questions that I'm very interested in, and hopefully some others are. So, you clearly, you're a design company, you're a design leader. you really care about maintaining high standards on those fronts. That's very evident in your product. How do you do that with 5,000 people?
You have to constantly be changing.
Okay, but just like practically speaking, like say if you hire me as a designer at Canva, and
Probably wouldn't.
I was going to say I'm not a very good designer, so that'd be a grievous mistake. But like I somehow sneak in, there was a cosmic ray hit, your applicant tracking system, and I was accidentally approved. And so I'm at Canva and I'm a bad designer. How does the system stop me from shipping my bad designs?
I think we try and eliminate as many layers as possible. So, despite the scale of Canva, you're always working with the world's best. And we really value having amazing practitioners in there. There is, the tendency to move practitioners up the ladder so that they no longer practice. But we try and instill in our leaders, in our coaches, the people that coach, individuals and teams across Canva, that they should also still be practicing as well. There's a bit of a balance in there.
So do you still do design?
Yeah, I would. I'm definitely not sweating every pixel, but in terms of making mock-ups, giving visions to teams for where they might want to head, we're still very involved in doing that. And the day that you lose the ability to put together a deck that can rally people around an idea is the day that the company dies. So we still encourage, all of our engineers, all of our designers, all of our product managers to stay in there and keep their skills sharp, and be able to work with any team, whether it's a team of 6 people or the broader team of 200 tackling enterprise. Get in there and dive in with them, sort out problems with them, because that is a fantastic way for people to learn.
At Stripe Sessions in San Francisco in April, I interviewed Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, and he said that he kind of shared your belief that one should eliminate some of these intermediary layers in favor of agility and speed and so forth, and that one of the ways in which he does that is he has 50 direct reports, which is not a conventional best practice, but is clearly working for him. And he gave a whole soliloquy describing why he thought it made sense. Do you guys have any kind of atypical management practices to achieve some of the outcomes that you just mentioned? I mean, I heard you just say coaches, which I guess not every organization has. But yeah, what are the strange things that Canva does on this front?
We definitely don't have anyone with 50 direct reports, and I hope we don't ever. But we take
next time you're into Jensen, just mention that, and he'll set you straight.
I think Elon does the same thing for good or worse. So we very much believe in helping our team grow, because companies like ours and yours, the organization is growing incredibly rapidly. The product itself is growing, the number of users is growing, revenue is growing, everything is on a hockey stick curve. And we want everyone at Canva to be on the same growth trajectory, to be constantly learning new things, feeling like they're tackling something different every day.
So when you say you want to foster an environment of growth, you mean growth as a person rather than growth of the organization?
Both. Obviously, you need to keep the metrics up and to the right, but keeping our team personally growing, both literally in the personally sense of me as a human being, as well as the professional sense of me as a product manager, or an engineer, or a designer, or a marketer, or a customer happiness team member. We focus a lot on that growth, and we have this growth and development framework internally that has 4 pillars in it that span strategy, communication, craft, and leadership. And within those 4 pillars, we've broken those down into 3 skills that apply across every specialty across Canva. And we have coaches inside Canva that coach everyone. And they help people through that growth framework. They identify that skill that you might want to focus on for the next 6 months. They identify opportunities across the company where you might want to pursue if you want to change your style of product management or move from being an ops person into being a product manager or from being an engineer to a prototyper. Like there's all these different
where did
avenues you
this
can take.
methodology come from?
Kind of out of our own brains. I'm sure we synthesized a bunch of stuff.
It was in Melanie's deck.
Probably in there. I didn't get to that page. But it's been synthesized from a lot of stuff. There was this pivotal moment where we got coaching as leaders. And that was one-on-one with the person. And we thought, why don't we scale this to the whole company? So we've set up that coaching framework across Canva over the last 7 or 8 years now, and kind of democratize that coaching that is normally reserved for executives.
How many coaches do you employ?
So when I say coach, that's like someone who looks after people in Canva, and that we've got probably 800 coaches.
Oh, okay. So are you using it synonymously with managers?
Yeah,
I see.
that.
All right. Well, maybe it's a good reframing. Okay, speaking of management, do you guys have a product management function?
We do have a product management function.
Okay, so as far as I can tell, every organization is kind of trying to figure out what kind of product management should actually be, and Apple has their conception, Google has their conception, and Airbnb has their conception, et cetera. What is product management at Canva?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I've noticed the same thing. Like, you take a star product manager from Google or Apple, you bring them into your company, it's not a guaranteed success that they're going to, swim. So I think product management is so contextual, and there's no real. You can't go get a degree in product management that's going to guarantee that you're a great product manager. At Canva, I think I talked to it a little bit. Like, that ability to set a vision is fantastically important. And when I say vision, I literally mean a vision. Like, it needs to be a visual thing that people rally around. And
like a vision as like a tangible, concrete mock-up, like that's a vision in this sense?
Mock-up, a deck that's talking about your idea, but that like gives really concrete examples of what you're trying to build.
I see. Yep.
A prototype, if you want to go that far.
Yep.
A prototype can be a click-through prototype. It's even better if it's a coded prototype.
And is your thing you're getting at here that it can't just be a business analysis that like this segment is really valuable and we should go after it. It has to be a specific concrete vision for what a valuable solution in that space might be. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Got it.
And that's something we've seen as we've brought hired product managers from other places like Amazon. They've got their culture.
Their visions take the form of spreadsheets.
Exactly. Like, incredibly data-driven. They'll have their 1 5-page or whatever it is that they sit down and read for 15 minutes of the meeting, and like, that just doesn't fly at Canva. You need to bring the vision that you can point to people at and say, let's build this thing, and they get excited about it. And
so what do you do if the vision's wrong?
I'm not sure I get your question.
So it's the customers that are wrong? No. I feel like at Stripe, we try to be quite cautious, I suppose, in forming our conceptions and our visions, because there's so much in the world that one doesn't understand and can't predict, or certainly we feel that way in our space. Things are rapidly changing and so forth, and we feel that we have these really sophisticated customers, like the most advanced businesses in the world, and we try to sort of go out with something that we think is directionally correct and hopefully useful, get around to feedback, iterate, and so forth. And the thing that we're always exhorting and, encouraging and sometimes, strongly mandating that our product folks do is like spend time not only talking to the customer, but like with the customer, like go to their office, understand their problem as well as the customer does, but to kind of create the vision in the context of that, and again, kind of in this iterative fashion. Would you see that any differently? Or, maybe it's the case that, for example, in your domain, one can make these kind of larger leaps and it doesn't have to be as iterative, or any thoughts on that?
I don't disagree with you. Part of coming up with a vision isn't like meditating under a Bodhi tree and having an idea come to you. It is about that intuitive synthesis of experience. So you've gone and talked to customers, You've observed them using the product. You yourself have felt the pain of doing something. You take all these data points in. It's not necessarily structured. It's not like, go and do this research, go get this quantitative data, bring it together and create a product. But you need all those bits within you, within your head to percolate, and then that ultimately arrives at a vision, which is part you creating something and part observing pain and possibility in the world and meeting that need.
So we just discussed here our new payments A/B testing functionality, and I think it's a terrific application of A/B testing where you can run these very nice natural experiments, and there's a very clear outcome goal you care about. Was the customer able to transact or not? And so I think it's really valuable there. Often at Stripe, people from other organizations, they come to Stripe and they're excited to A/B test some change in our dashboard or something, like the flow for creating an invoice or something like that. And I really think we shouldn't be A/B testing in those cases because it's not even clear what the customer should have done. And like if you increase the number of invoices created, it's like, I don't know, did the customer actually want more invoices? And so I think it's only kind of in these narrow spaces where A/B testing is germane and applicable. I say this and nobody kind of believes me because I'm just a sort of a programmer who doesn't understand product design. It would be really helpful if I could cite Cameron Adams, the chief product officer at Canva, as also believing in this worldview. So thoughts?
So how much is this advance? How's the advance on the Stripe Pressbook? Like what quantity are we talking about here? I think it is a danger to have a culture of just A/B testing. Like, can't figure out the answer to this, let's just A/B test it. What do we do next? Let's just like throw some things out and see what sticks to the wall through an A/B test. I think that is a dangerous culture. There have been moments where we didn't quite head down that path, but you could see it going there as people are like hungry for data and they want to really be sure of which direction they're going in. But we've definitely taken steps away from that because there are these leaps that you have to make in terms of putting a bet out there on what the world should look like and that there is this opportunity that no one else has spotted that you should be going after. And you're not going to find that through an A/B test.
Yeah.
So it does have its place, often in optimizing, sign-up funnels and stuff like that. But thinking about broader pieces of the product, you really need to do deeper research and have those kind of intuitive leaps that only human creativity can bring about.
When I get back home, I'm going to say that you totally agreed. Okay, here's sort of a slight change of topic. You guys seem like a terrifically successful co-founding team, and something I observe in Silicon Valley is that of the successful companies, the co-founding teams don't tend to stay together. And maybe the company will do very well, but for whatever reason the team doesn't. And I guess Facebook is sort of the most successful version of this, literally yielded a movie, but there are lots of more prosaic examples. Any tricks or secrets for how you guys as a team have as best I can tell, kept it working so well?
I don't think you can point to us and say like, here's how you can do it. Here's like the steps that you'll take to do it.
Maybe some lessons or something. I don't know.
I think lessons. Finding really complementary personalities. So prior to Canva, started a bunch of startups, had a bunch of side projects that never went anywhere. Often they were with very similar people, like people who did very similar work to me, thought in exactly the same way. And I think if you have too much of that overlap, it doesn't create a very robust and diverse organization. So when you hit a problem that none of you has encountered before or has no reference frame for, it'll be quite tricky. But B, as the company grows, you don't have these different areas to go in and kind of own and not step on each other's toes. And the three of us, me, Mel, and Cliff, came from very different backgrounds, different skill sets. They migrated here from Perth. I moved up from Melbourne. I had a strong design and technology background, which Mel and Cliff didn't have, but they were fantastic business builders, amazing vision, and we just fit together really well. I wouldn't say it was calculated by any of us. I knew what I wanted in partners from previous failures, but it wasn't like I went and sought out Mel and Cliff and vice versa. It was a random act of chance that we came together through an introduction from my old Google boss. And we didn't do a huge amount of due diligence on each other. We looked at what we'd each built and were like, that's pretty impressive. Like, let's see what we can do together. But it was a pretty rapid kind of courting session before we decided to join forces and start this thing together.
Well, it seems to be working. So, okay, you mentioned going after the enterprise. So a thing that, again, we discussed this morning is that Stripe's strategy is to both build for the world's newest, most innovative, youngest companies, and sometimes that's a side project, and the headquarters is somebody's bedroom. But then also the world's largest, most established companies, and we work with traditional automotive manufacturing firms, and Amazon and Google and so forth. You guys are, you started out at the lower end, but now you're kind of in a similar vein, targeting the Fortune 500. And there's an amazing stat. It's you said on Lenny's podcast that 95% of the Fortune 500 now uses Canva. So maybe you're not going after enterprise, you've just got enterprise. But any thoughts on this product journey and lessons that might be applicable to other businesses?
You've done some good research. It's a real mix of everything you just said. So when we thought about empowering the world to design, we thought a lot about the individuals, like 8 billion individuals in the world who could each use an application that helps them design. So that was pretty much the first product we shipped, was something that I, as an individual person, could create something with and send it off as marketing material, put it on my social feed, whatever. So we spent a long time building that product, and it's a rich vein of growth. It's easy for one person to pick up any piece of software and start using it. They don't have to rely on their team members or winning someone else over to buy it for them. And it fit really well with our freemium model. Being able to use the product for free and then slowly get used to it and then decide that you want to upgrade. So we focused on building that for probably 6 or 7 years. And we started seeing these patterns where people had picked up Canva to do something, like run their business or do a school newsletter. Then they would maybe get a job inside a large company and bring Canva with them and use that as their marketing tool and introduce the rest of the marketing team to it. So you started seeing these pockets of growth inside organizations. We didn't strategically focus on that for a couple of years. It just kind of grew. We ended up having, Fortune 500 companies where 500 people were using Canva, but not in any particularly coordinated way. They'd share a design.
Before you had SSO and all this stuff?
Yeah. Huh. So they'd share a design with someone else. Yep. Maybe they'd share it with another person. So you'd have these little teams of 3 or 4 people. Those started bundling together. Particularly brand teams would start seeing this and being like, what the hell is Canva? Should we be interacting with this? So we started having conversations with brand teams, with sales teams as well, because they got a huge amount of value out of creating Canva pitch decks that were obviously valuable to getting customers. So we started having more of these conversations and seeing these patterns of teams needing to come together inside Canva. And then through the pandemic, it just accelerated because no one was working in the office anymore. They needed to collaborate more. They needed better tools to communicate with. They needed better ways to engage customers. And Canva fit the bill for presentations, videos, websites, a whole bunch of different things. So it was about 4 years ago that we really started thinking about what does enterprise look like for Canva. And when we first went and tackled it, we're just get those 1,000 people inside FedEx or Amazon and just get them to all be on the same subscription. It'll be wonderful and magical for us. Didn't quite work. We actually launched the first version of our enterprise product 4 years ago, and we just hit these barriers of proper team expansion. People were still happy to use Canva and it was growing like crazy, but there was no coordination. And no one inside the company who was like, we need to get this coordinated. So understanding these different types of users in large organizations, whether that's your CIO or your CISO or your IT team or the brand team who want to roll out a massive rebrand, really understanding them was work that we needed to do. And it was honestly a bit of a gap for us that we hadn't really thought about them at all before. So the last 3 years, we've bridged that product gap. We now think of them as users. They have tools, administrative mechanisms. They understand the pain that Canva solves for them, the opportunities that it can grow for them.
I heard about
much
this
better at
in a rap song, actually.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, no, it was very the enterprise messaging. In fact, now Stripe, well, I don't know if it's in response, but Stripe, became a customer.
Well, it's obviously working, and you can take that playbook and use it whenever you want. So
okay, Irish rap at our next conference.
House of Pain. Bring your House of Pain in.
There you go. Okay, so I want to ask you about a sort of an obscure niche topic that is never discussed these days. Artificial intelligence. At sessions in April, Jensen also said that you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who's making better use of AI than you are. From afar, seems germane to Canva, and obviously you guys acquired Leonardo. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think AI is directly disrupting a few industries, like Google and search is like a massive thing, but it's also a fantastic kind of what's the word? It's from the innovation playbook, but like a progressive innovation as well for a ton of different companies, and we very much see AI as the next phase of democratizing design. We've never thought that you deliver design through a particular piece of technology. We've always just used the tools at our command of the day to bring design to more people. And AI is like the next wave of that. And it's a fantastic way to do it, to further democratize design, give people access to better storytelling, give people ways to bring their ideas to life rather than sitting in the back shelves as something that they never do.
Do you think the world just around us is going to become more nicely designed now that these tools exist?
I think it probably will.
We used to be bottlenecked on human labor, but now you can scale it much more.
We very much believe like a rising tide lifts all boats. And we've seen that as we've brought design to people who haven't been able to access it before through the Canva tool. It like raises the level of conversation that you have about design and the ability for people to execute upon it.
Yeah, if the world is not much more beautiful in 20 years, I'm going to be very disappointed.
We'd definitely go and talk to Jensen and demand that it be better.
Stripe is a Canva customer. You guys have been a Stripe customer since I think 2014. Would love to hear just any top of mind thoughts you have, how that's gone for you. Any observations? We interview a Stripe customer at our weekly kind of all hands every week, and we really want to get the most candid feedback and criticism from them. So you can go to any direction, but thoughts on your use of Stripe?
I remember when Stripe launched, and it was incredibly exciting. I was like working out of a co-working place at the time, and just hearing engineers being able to get payments going in a matter of minutes was just like, it was the buzz of the co-working space for like 3 years. And I think, to your point, like being able to start with startups and really agile, nimble people that just want to get stuff done is a fantastic advantage. And it was our advantage as well when we were starting out. As Canva has grown from startup to 190 million people that use the product now, it changes the needs of what you have to do, particularly with payment. So being able to take payments in Brazil, Indonesia, India, like 190 countries around the world becomes this massively complicated problem. And you kind of think that everyone in the world has a credit card or even a bank account, and that they can just pay like we pay.
This was not scripted. You're extremely on message to what we covered this morning, so absolutely.
So being able to operate in all those countries as seamlessly as possible is definitely something that we are working on with you. And at the moment, we do have to go out to like quite a few different providers in a lot of those places because there's all these peculiarities and quirks of like how cards get processed, what gets accepted, checks, retries, all these things.
And so you would say that kind of finding a unified platform that can kind of abstract over and handle all of that is really important.
As long as that doesn't get attributed as a quote to me.
We're at time, and so I just want to say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We're extremely excited to have worked with you guys for pretty much the entirety of our operations in Australia, and it's clear that Canva has an enormously bright future over the decade to come, and we really look forward to supporting you in the journey.
No worries, it's been good fun. Thanks, Patrick.